Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling a play that's, well, much more than just a play. It feels like a powerful moral warning. We're diving into J.B. Priestley's An Inspector Calls.
Absolutely. It really aims to provoke the conscience, doesn't it?
It does. And our mission today is to unpack how Priestley uses moral ambiguity and this whole complex idea of responsibility to deliver that punch. It all swirls around Eva Smith, of course.
Yeah, the setup is brilliant. Priestley just drops us right into 1912 Edwardian England. You've got the Burlings, this wealthy family celebrating an engagement. Everything seems fine, maybe a little smug, but fine.
Until the doorbell rings.
Exactly. Inspector Gould arrives, and suddenly this cozy scene is shattered with the news that a young woman, Eva Smith, has committed suicide. And somehow they're all connected to it.
And that's the genius, right? It's not your standard detective story asking who did it.
Not at all.
Priestley throws us straight into this murky water of moral ambiguity. There aren't clear heroes, no absolute villains. Instead, you're grappling with these characters whose actions, well, they're not always pure evil, but the consequences are devastating.
Take Mr. Burling, Arthur Burling. He fires Eva just for asking for a small raise, and he defends it, calls it his duty to keep labor costs down.
On the surface, maybe a cold business decision. But Priestley shows how easily that kind of thinking masks a real lack of basic human empathy. It makes you ask, where does business duty end and personal moral failure begin?
That's a great point. And what's really interesting is how moral certainty itself can be presented as flawed. Think about Mrs. Burling. She refuses charity help to Eva, who's pregnant and desperate, because Eva used the Burling name. And Mrs. Burling felt morally offended.
She's so rigid.
Utterly. She believes she's upholding high standards. But that conviction, completely stripped of compassion, becomes incredibly cruel.
A kind of weaponized self-righteousness.
Exactly. It shows how dangerous that can be, maybe more so than obvious bad intentions.
So it's less about what they meant to do and more about the actual impact.
I think so. Which leads us nicely to Sheila Burling.
Okay.
Her action feels almost small at first. A moment of jealousy in a shop gets Eva fired from her job there.
A very human failing, perhaps, but amplified by her social position, her privilege.
Absolutely. The consequences for Eva are huge. Now, Sheila does show real remorse later. She seems genuinely changed.
But Priestley doesn't just let her off, does he? He leaves it with you, the listener, to decide if regret is enough to, cancel out the initial act.
It's complex. And then you have Gerald Croft.
Right, the fiancé.
He actually gives Eva some stability, some happiness for a while. She even says it was the best part of her life, but he drops her when it suits him, when his engagement to Sheila becomes more important. So was it kindness, or was it just exploitation dressed up?
That line is definitely blurred. Priestley resists making him just one thing.
Which feels very true to life, those moral compromises people make.
And Eric, the son, his actions are perhaps the most directly damaging in some ways.
Yeah, he exploits Eva, gets her pregnant, steals money. It's pretty bad.
But he's also falling apart with guilt. He expresses real remorse, maybe more viscerally than some of the others.
So can youthful mistakes or genuine regret lessen responsibility? Again, Priestley gives no easy answers. He forces you to weigh it all out.
Okay, so we have these individual actions steeped in ambiguity. How does Priestley then weave them into this chain of events to explore responsibility?
Well, that's the structural brilliance, isn't it? He shows how these actions, seemingly separate, create this cumulative effect. It's about direct versus indirect causation.
Right, so Mr. Burling firing her, that's not the direct cause of her death, but it pushes her towards vulnerability. Indirect cause.
Precisely. And Sheila's complaint at the shop. Another indirect push. Closing another door for Eva. A ripple effect.
Then Gerald's abandonment may be a bit more direct in terms of emotional distress, leaving her isolated again.
You could argue that, yeah. And Mrs. Burling's refusal of aid. That feels pretty direct. A denial of help at a critical moment. A failure of social responsibility.
Removing the last safety net.
Effectively, yes.
Yeah.
And Eric's actions leading to her final despair. Arguably the most direct links in that chain leading to her decision.
So Priestley's building this case step by step. It's not just about one person.
It's about the whole mindset. No single character is solely to blame. That's crucial. The play argues it's this accumulation, selfishness, thoughtlessness, prejudice, both direct and indirect acts that creates the environment leading to Eva's death.
A societal failure, really.
Exactly. And the inspector himself, whether he's real or some kind of conscience figure, forces them and us to face up to it, regardless of whether anyone finds out.
So wrapping this up, Priestley turns this mystery into a searing moral warning. He uses that ambiguity, that chain of events,
To show how interconnected we all are, how actions, even seemingly small ones by people who aren't necessarily monsters, can have devastating consequences.
It refuses to give simple judgments, which is why it stays with you, I think.
Definitely. It holds up a mirror, doesn't it? Makes you think about your own life, your own responsibilities, even now.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener. Considering the inspector's ambiguous nature and that twist at the end, does our moral responsibility depend on getting caught, on external judgment?
Or does it come from inside? From recognizing, as the inspector says, that we are members of one body.
Something to think about. What small actions in your own life might ripple outwards in ways you can't foresee?